Hi, I'm Steve with AlbertaUrbanGarden.ca. Over the last year, I've evaluated many garden practices, products, and methods through the Testing Garden Assumption series. Through this series, I've really taken a look at a lot of resources that are said to have fertilizer potential if used in the garden. I focused on free and local resources simply because I want to be a little more sustainable in my garden and hopefully fertilize my garden for free for years to come. In order to analyze fertilizer potential of materials, I've looked at two main areas. The organic macronutrients, such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, that are required in high concentrations, and the trace elements or micronutrients that are equally as important, however, are required in significantly smaller concentrations. Plants require or gain benefit from 21 elements. Of these, 15 are commonly tested for in our analysis. So far, free and local resources that have shown fertilizer potential are coffee grounds, tea leaves, comfrey, autumn leaves, wood ash or wood chips, and even human urine. Today, I thought I would take a look at another commonly recommended organic amendment, eggshells. The main recommendation is that eggshells are made of primarily calcium carbonate, and calcium is required by many plants and is critical for such things as healthy tomato production and helping to avoid things like blossom end rot. The assumption that eggshells have high concentrations of calcium is quite correct. Researchers in the Netherlands had eggshells from a number of sources analyzed and found that the concentration of calcium in eggshells averages around 390 milligrams per gram, or 39% of the shell. Unfortunately, the calcium within eggshells is not immediately available to the plants. Plants require calcium to be in its elemental form as opposed to the calcium carbonate found within eggshells. Some sources recommend treating your eggshells with something like a vinegar or acetic acid in order to release the calcium from the carbonate. Unfortunately, while eggshells will react with vinegar, it does not release the element of calcium. It simply binds and neutralizes the acid. If you require a fast hit of calcium, the easiest thing to do is to increase the surface area of your eggshells and letting them decompose. There are alternative methods to add calcium to your garden, such as the use of antacids. However, antacids are still made up of calcium carbonate and still require time to break down. That said, in my garden soil, I have more than enough calcium. All I really need to do is to replace the calcium as my plants take it out. In addition to the calcium, the same researchers in the Netherlands found 6 of the 15 commonly tested for essential and beneficial elements, including nitrogen and selenium. Selenium is not found in most of the resources I have evaluated to date. That said, most native soils in North America are not deficient in selenium. Some sources recommend treating your eggshells with heat prior to using them in the garden. The reason being is egg whites are extremely good at cultivating bacteria. So if there's any egg whites left on your eggshells, this may be a location where pathogens such as Salmonella or E. coli can colonize. If you come in contact with Salmonella or E. coli among other pathogens in high enough concentrations, it can cause you to become ill. There are 2 primary ways that I add eggshells to my garden. The first, and recommended, is to add it to your hot compost. Many studies have shown hot composts can reach temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius or 122 Fahrenheit, which, if maintained, is shown to be extremely successful at killing pathogens. Backyard home composts can achieve this often more than once if mixed and re-oxygenated. So adding eggshells to your hot compost is a safe way to gain their benefits in your garden. The second method I use is to simply crush the shells and add them to my mulch layer. These shells have spent a few months drying in my shed. I've chosen to skip the heat treatment step when adding eggshells to my mulch, and here's why. After the eggs have spent a few months in my shed, if the bacteria were to colonize, they would have already colonized and consumed the nutrients. During this time, the shells will dry out, also helping to make the shells a less than hospitable place for bacteria. Once applied to the mulch layer, the shells being heavier than the leaves will often settle down below the leaves. This reduces my contact with the shells and increases their contact with the soil that has billions of competing bacteria. The risk of exposure, in my opinion, is quite low, and it's probably similar to many tasks you complete every day in your kitchen. That said, if you do not feel comfortable adding untreated eggshells to your mulch layer, please feel free to treat them using heat in, say, your stove or microwave. I will be adding eggshells to the list of free and local resources that I divert from landfill to fertilize my garden. Through the use of all of these free and local resources that I've evaluated to date, I've met one of my big garden goals, and that is to fertilize my garden for free. I have not needed to add any store-bought fertilizers to my garden for the last 2 seasons. Later on this year in the Testing Garden Assumption series, I'm going to take a look at the fertilizer potential of other free and local resources you may have access to. I'm going to take a look at things like used brewery grains, manures from rabbits, chickens, and cows, and any other sources and resources I can think of. If you have suggestions, I highly recommend and would very much appreciate you putting them in the comment section below this video. If you have missed any of the Testing Garden Assumption series videos, or would like to know more about the free and local resources that we have evaluated, please make sure to check out the playlist on screen now.